In this lesson, we will look at the definition for even and odd functions, and we will test several functions to determine if they are even or odd. Let's start with the definition. A function is called even if its graph is symmetric about the y-axis. A function is called odd if its graph is symmetric about the origin. Testing functions for symmetry. The graph of a function f is symmetric about the y-axis if and only if f of negative x equals f of x for all x in the domain of f. Here is a graph of an even function that is symmetric about the y-axis. And let's look on this graph if the point x, f of x, is on the graph. We can see that the point negative x, f of negative x, is also on the graph, and in fact we can see that the y values here are the same, so in fact f of negative x is equal to f of x. The graph of a function f is symmetric about the origin if and only if f of negative x equals negative f of x for all x in the domain of f. So here is the graph of a function f. This is an odd function. The graph is symmetric about the origin. Notice if the point x, f of x, is on our graph, and the point negative x, f of negative x, is on our graph. Then if we take this point x, f of negative x, reflected about the x-axis, we'll have the point x, negative f of x. And if you look here, the y values, the y coordinates of the points negative x, f of negative x, and x, negative f of x, are the same. In other words, f of negative x is equal to negative f of x. Let's determine analytically if the following function is even, odd, neither, or both. This function is f of x equals x squared plus 3. To begin with, we'll find f of negative x by replacing x with negative x. Simplifying gives us f of negative x is equal to x squared plus 3. This is equivalent to the original function, so here f of x equals f of negative x, and our function is even. Next, we'll look at g of x equals 3x minus 1 and begin by finding g of negative x. We'll replace x with negative x. Simplify. G of negative x is equal to negative 3x minus 1. And so g of negative x is not equal to g of x. We'll go to the next step, which would be to find negative g of x. To find negative g of x, I simply distribute a negative through 3x minus 1. And we could think of negative 1 distributing through 3x minus 1, resulting in negative 3x plus 1 when simplified. And here you can see that g of negative x is not equal to negative g of x. And so in fact, this function is neither even nor odd. Okay. H of x equals 3x cubed minus x. Again, we'll begin by finding h of negative x. That would give me 3 times negative x cubed minus negative x. This simplifies to negative 3x cubed plus x, not equivalent to h of x. So h of x is not equal to h of negative x. This function is not even. The next step would be to find negative h of x, would be the negative of 3x cubed minus x. It simplifies to become negative 3x cubed plus x. And here we see that h of negative x is equal to negative h of x. And so this would be an example of an odd function. Try this next one on your own. Determine analytically if the function f of x equals x to the 5th plus 2x cubed minus 3x is even, odd, neither, or both.